Welcome to the Data Hall YouTube channel. In today's video, we are going to talk about how do we identify and delete duplicate observations in R. So we are going to talk about how do we identify duplicate observations, how do we delete or drop these duplicate observations and only keep a single a unique value for them. How do we tag duplicate observations? That is, we can create a column where we can assign a value as a number of duplicates that we have in our data set for that specific value. And we can generate a report of duplicate observations. So let's get started. We have a sample data frame over here. Let's say these data frame contains two columns, that is ID and name. The ID column contains their registration number, and the name contains obviously the name assigned to that specific registration number, the name of the student. So we're creating this data frame. Okay, let's press Ctrl Enter. And we have this student's data frame over here. We have 6 entries, their registration and name. And as we can see in row 2 and row 5, we have an exact duplicate observations. In all other cases, neither the name nor the ID variable contains any duplicate observations. So how do we delete or first identify these duplicate observations? Let's start with the duplicated function. So what this duplicated function would do is it would identify the duplicate entries, right? So if we use the function, assign the data frame into it, press Ctrl Enter, and it would give us a Boolean characters that would either be false or true if that specific value is a duplicate. So we know that this Bob is the second last, which is a duplicate of this this second row. So it gives us true for that observation, because for that specific row, because that is a duplicate data in our data set. But it isn't quite descriptive. We do not know which specific observation is duplicate. We just know that there are certain duplicates in there if there is a true value. So we'll come back to that in a while. But before that, if we want to know how many duplicates do we have, we can wrap this duplicated function within this sum function, and that would give us the number of duplicates we have. Similarly, if we wanted to know the exact location of that duplicate, so we can again wrap this duplicated function within this which function, and that would give us the row index at which that duplicate observation exists. Okay, so that is how we get the number of duplicate observation. But what if we wanted to get the exact value? Till now, we haven't identified. I mean, looking at the console, we cannot, say which specific student, which specific registration number is a duplicate. So what we can do is we can take this student's data frame, and within that, again, we can write this duplicated students function. And if you are aware of that, so whenever we have this, we have a data frame, what we can do is within the square brackets, if we specify the first value would represent the column number. So if we specify 5 over here, comma nothing, that would give us this whole row. Right? And similarly, if we were to specify 1 over here, that would give us this whole column, right? But this is the column is not what we are interested in. This is what we are interested in, right? So one way of doing this would be to get the row number and then assign that row number within this this data frame, and then we can get the row that is duplicate. But there is a more fancy way of doing it, and that is again within instead of writing 5, what we could have done is replace that 5 with this duplicate function, and that would give us the exact same result, right? If we were to check the unique observations, then instead of duplicate, we should have a prefix of not, and that would mean those rows that are not duplicated would give us those rows that are not duplicate, right? So what we have done is we have basically deleted that duplicate row, and if we were to assign this to a data frame, we can create a new data frame that would now have 5 observations that are unique. But there is an easy way of deleting these duplicate observations, and that is what we are going to discuss now. We can use this unique function, right? So unique students, so name of the data frame, and what this would do is it would just get us the unique observations, the same thing as we did with the duplicated and not duplicated syntax, but now it is quite easy to work with, right? The result is exactly the same of both these way of writing the function. So then there is one more function which is called distinct, that comes from the tidyverse package. So if you haven't installed the tidyverse package, you would first have to install it. I have already installed it, so I would just load that package into my environment using library and the name of the package. Now the distinct function is the syntax is again the same. We write the name of the function and specify the data frame, and it gives us the unique observation. This is exactly the same as the unique function, but the interesting thing with this distinct function is that, let's just say if we were to assign a specific column and we wanted it to search duplicate observations in that specific column or columns, then unique or duplicate wouldn't work. Even if we were to make them work, it would be quite a lot of code, right? So distinct is, so let me explain this using this new data set. Let's call it all students. And what it contains is we have this program over here. So either a student is from a bachelor's program or a master's program. And within each program, we can have, the same registration numbers. But this Alice is unique, does have a unique identifier in the sense that it contains this unique ID within BS program, right? But if you were to look in this whole data set, then this ID is not unique because David and Alice does have the same ID. So what I mean to say is now we have 2 columns that would combinedly identify a single observation. So in terms of a database, we have a compound primary key, right? Okay, so if we were to use this distinct function, and if you were to assign, let's work with this all students database, it gives us unique value, rather it gives us all the values that it have, right? But although we know that this specific registration is repeated twice within BS program, and again these, but in a sense that distinct looks in all the columns. There isn't a row that whole row is duplicate, right? What if we wanted it to just look into the program column and identify the duplicate, the unique observations? And it did. We just have 2 unique observations in the program column. Now it does drop all the other columns, right? What if we wanted it to have all the columns? Then we would use this keep all equal to true, parameter. And then it would give us all the. Now, what it had done is it had looked at the program column and just got the first unique observation from the BS. But we know that program does not uniquely identify the observations. Rather, program and ID combinedly identify a student. So now we get these 5 observations, but we had 6 observations in a data, and the reason for it to drop 1 observation is because this ID 102 is repeated twice, and now in terms of program and ID, these two are duplicates, so it would just keep a single observation, a single row, right? Okay, so one way of writing this is, instead of having this data frame, and obviously this goes for all the tidyverse writing style, instead of this data frame being within the unique function, what we can do is we can get it out and pipe that into the distinct function, and that would give us the exact same results. Okay, let's move forward. How do we report duplicate observations? Let me get again with the students data, and I'm going to use this code where I'm going to filter and then group them by ID name, and then summarize the number of counts, right? So it gives me that this specific row, that is ID and Bob, they have 2 number of observations, and obviously we just want the number of values for each duplicate. So let me just change this data, and it might make more sense, right? If we have, let's just say, this last one is also Bob, let's just say, and we have, let's say, this Alice. So now we have 2 entries for Alice and 3 entries for Bob. And now how would our output look like if we were to, it tells us that there are 2 entries for Alice and for the same ID and for the same name, and there are 3 entries for this specific row. How do we tag these observations? We can use this code. We can go into mutate and then have the number of observations that we have, and it would create a data frame. We are going to call it DF. Let me show you that data frame. We have a new column that contains whether that entry is unique or not, or sorry, that contains whether that entry is the first or the duplicated of the previous ones. So this is the first entry, right? Again, for Bob, we know Bob is duplicate, but this one is the first entry, and then Alice is repeated, so it would have 2 over here. Similarly, Bob is repeated twice and thrice. So now we have tagged these observations whether they are duplicate or not. So anything that is greater than 1 would be in the row number column would be a duplicate. So I hope that was useful. Stay tuned to this channel, do subscribe, and do hit the bell icon.